Why Are We Here? Creating a Work Culture Everyone Wants by Jennifer Moss. Narrated by April Doty. Whatever happens, we'll keep the story going. Anthony Doerr, Cloud Cuckoo Land. Introduction. Why are we here? On my way to a talk in Chicago, I did what I always do in an Uber: chat with the driver. You'll rarely find me in quiet mode on these rides. I'm naturally curious, and these excursions are research-rich environments. I've had hundreds of conversations with rideshare drivers in countries around the world about how and why they got into this profession. Their stories are always enlightening, often surprising, and never boring. That day I met Cara, a lawyer who had resigned from an international law firm earlier that year. She now drives for 6 months and spends the other half of the year in Costa Rica, where she has set up a nonprofit helping young women get microloans to start up their businesses. This work has become her main focus. "The best thing I did was get out of law," Cara said. "I stopped feeling like it was worth giving up all those hours to the firm. There were no black female partners. I just didn't see the pathway," she said. "The pandemic was this big aha moment for me because I had so many family members who got sick, and I lost my dad. After that, I just realized that life is too short. I wanted to give back. I wanted my life to have some sort of impact, even in a small way." Cara is one of the reasons why I was compelled to write this book. Over the years, my conversations with people from various walks of life, from Uber drivers and retail workers to nurses, machinists, CEOs, policymakers, and politicians, have all revealed a common thread. A singular question has surfaced repeatedly: why am I here? In my interviews, many people described feelings of detachment, a loss of effectiveness, and ennui. People weren't less ambitious or lazy. They were uninspired. For those who'd resigned, who felt purposeful and motivated, most shared that they'd left for more meaningful and challenging work. It makes sense. In times like this, chaotic, uncertain, and turbulent, it's harder to be happy. Take Tim, the former CEO of a 100-year-old company, who came up to me after one of my talks. He'd recently given his notice after 23 years at the company and only 2 years into his role as CEO. A long-time dream. He'd started his career as an apprentice and then moved up the ranks. After 2 years of intense volatility at the helm, he was exhausted. That dream was over. "I just told my wife a few weeks ago that I bought us one-way tickets to a spot near a beach and put a deposit on a long-term Airbnb rental," Tim told me. "I told the board that they should find someone to take my place. They were surprised by my early retirement, but they were totally caught off guard when I told them I was also leaving the board. They assumed I'd be around for at least another 5 years. I told them I just can't. I want out. I'm done." His raw emotion struck a chord with me, echoing the all-too-familiar signs of burnout. The moral depletion, the fatigue, the sadness. He said that all he'd ever wanted was this job, and now he wonders, what was it for? "These last few years were a game-changer," he said. "It broke my spirit." Existential crises are common. Some people decide to make a career pivot or leave a bad job. Others question whether what they do has value. At multiple points in our work lives, we all ask the question, why am I here? But what's different about our current situation is we all seem to be asking this question together at the same time, as if we're all having a shared existential crisis. This point might seem obvious, but the pandemic and various other events, world crises, climate change, remote work, a rethink of work-life balance, have acted as a catalyst, prompting a global reevaluation of work and its meaning that's still ongoing. The last part is critical. This stuff isn't in the past. We're still dealing with it, and will be for the foreseeable future. Recently, someone said, "Isn't burnout so 2020? "I wish," I said. I'd just read a robust and detailed report by Mercer that said 81% of workers are at risk of burnout next year, and nearly 2/3 of C-level executives predict a stormy or turbulent outlook over the next 10 years. As I see it, we've entered a new multiverse of work, a parallel universe that has different rules and realities than the one we occupied before, and we're still trying to make sense of it. Today, and for an unspecified time into the future, our brains will go through this daily conscious and subconscious querying. Does this job fit into the bigger picture of my life goals? Or do I mostly feel anxiety and burnout? We'll even question, am I even good at my job anymore? When I go to work and invest the precious time I have left, I'll wonder, do I feel engaged? Is my work meaningful? Is my work worthwhile? Why am I here? Our brain will be persistent. My priorities have changed, and this work doesn't align with my values anymore. We will start to imagine what else we could be doing with our limited lifespan. Some might say, I could be with my kids, working on projects that excite me, or retiring to be with grandkids. While others might say, getting more work-life balance, writing that book, or working on a beach. Essentially, insert blank, followed by anything but this. That's what happens when the workforce goes through a collective existential crisis, a crisis that creates an expectation for a social contract with work that hasn't existed at this level before. The abrupt changes and continuous uncertainty of recent times have demanded real-time responses without the luxury of established strategies, and so it's no wonder a lot of workers feel unmoored. Work today feels like going to school without art, gym, or recess. It's just all about the work, and for most of us, that's not enough. Despite the many attempts to create healthy, happy, and high-performing cultures, the kind that everyone wants, those aspirations continue to elude us. This is a problem that has become increasingly worrisome as new leaders take over old jobs, managing a workforce that feels less than enthusiastic about change. Our work cultures have been altered irrevocably, and we need to find better ways to build better ones that are more fit for the times. We've learned the hard way that oversimplified tactics like just bringing everyone back to the office after the long work-from-home pandemic period don't work, nor has acting like nothing's changed. Business-as-usual behavior has created an even deeper divide between employers and employees. If you're a leader, you don't need me to tell you that this new era of work has been challenging. I believe that right now is the most complex and confusing time to be a leader in modern history. When we were in a crisis, leaders reacted as would be expected: keep the company going, pivot when needed, respond urgently, and be assertive. Suddenly, the number of meetings tripled, workload became unsustainable, and we kept acting with urgency. Somewhere in there, a call was made, perhaps unintentionally, to prioritize growth and productivity over connection. And now we're seeing the downstream impact of that choice. Our workforce is the loneliest it's ever been, but trying to get people to form new bonds or reignite their former network is met with indifference. Mercer's 2024 Global Talent Trends report analyzed responses from more than 12,200 C-suite executives, leaders, and employees, and the results were startling. 2 in 5 workers believe that the world of work is fundamentally broken, and 1 in 4 wish they didn't have to work at all. In addition, Global leaders agree that mental safety and purpose are required for employees to thrive. This widespread workforce ennui is not that surprising. It's what happens when we're tired and bored and aimless. The urgent pace we had adopted was never going to be sustainable. What is surprising is why anyone could think it was. But the situation is not hopeless. We face a big challenge ahead for sure, with no easy silver bullet fix. Silver bullets are rare, but I see leaders trying to fix these extraordinary and complex problems with blunt instruments. I've repeated this theme in all my books, that unlocking happiness at work isn't simply about switching to a culture of good vibes only. Solving the burnout epidemic won't happen with self-care alone. And the plan to help a workforce navigate an existential crisis can't be built on old frameworks. I see a path forward. It's disruptive, yes. But once we get over that initial shock that comes from abrupt change, we'll recognize this as a moment of real opportunity for growth and innovation. This is our chance to build new cultures we are eager to be a part of. Building a healthy, happy, and high-performing culture. Leadership has never been more demanding. Besides the typical stuff, like being caught between the expectations of stakeholders and the needs of your teams, all while striving to meet organizational goals and exceed personal benchmarks, you've had to lead your team through a global health crisis, adopt new AI technologies and grapple with their economic impact, take part in return-to-office debates, manage remote and hybrid teams, and respond more directly to social issues. The burden is immense. All the while, you've had to put your finger on why work and our relationship with it feels different. Something's changed, but what? I have some answers. Throughout this book, we'll go on a hunt together to locate the missing pieces that make our workplaces into a whole. Through the research and data, the examples and case studies, and the many impassioned stories from people deep in the work, it will become evident that finding the answer to why we are here requires us to figure this out together. In this book, I'll outline 8 areas rooted in social and behavioral psychology research that will transform a workforce weighed down with ennui to a healthy and high-performing one. These are the must-have core skills leaders need to thrive in this new universe of work, where a leadership reset is a requirement, not a request. In Part 1, we'll cover the things that underpin a great culture and make employees feel more respected and motivated. These features make up the foundation. Hope. It all starts here. Hope is a major driver of self-efficacy, helping us meet our goals. We can't develop resilience, agility, motivation, self-awareness, and curiosity without hope. And we can't come up with meaningful and positive answers to the question, why are we here? Purpose. Without purpose, work can feel monotonous and disconnected, but with it, every effort becomes a step toward a greater goal, enriching our sense of self and our contributions to the world. We can operationalize purpose. It just takes intention and attention. Community. The social thread that connects us to our coworkers and teams is frayed, and it's causing an epidemic of worker loneliness. Rebuilding weak ties is a core culture strategy because friendships are what make us show up, work more effectively, and inevitably make our lives better. There are also big business challenges that are affecting our cultures and how employees perceive their work, relationships, teams, and organizations. Part 2 focuses on how we can meet those challenges. Compassion. As technology increases at a rapid pace, so does AI anxiety. Worker fears and uncertainties are at their highest levels. For organizations to be future-ready, leaders need a compassion strategy, a plan that gives employees a path toward a sustainable future, emotional agility, and a mindset that's ready for change. Freedom. Cultures that experience freedom and believe it can be curtailed will push back, even at personal cost. By recognizing that flexibility is freedom that is a right and not a perk, we can restore a sense of personal freedom and in turn restore trust in leadership. Openness. When our cultures are weak, our differences get magnified. And different generations, from Gen Z to Boomers, have completely different needs and attitudes about work. As ageism continues to run rampant, generational divides grow wider, and now each generation feels like they are on their own. It's time to rethink our approach. And finally, if we want to build a better culture, we need to ensure that everyone feels a part of it. That's part 3. Belonging. Our diversity, equity, and inclusion (DEI) efforts aren't working as intended, leading to further discord. Let's go upstream to a strategy of abundance versus deficit. We need to focus on what we have rather than what we don't have and help everyone feel more included while enacting the right policies and getting rid of the ones that aren't working. Recognition. For too long, our strategies to support women at work have been based on benevolence. Let's help women break the glass ceiling instead of recognition. But work still isn't working for women, and they're voting with their feet. To fix that problem, we need to recognize that women are good for business, and retaining them is a top priority. As we embark on this discovery mission together, I am confident there will be some surprises along the way. Some of the research is novel, or obscure, or both. Some of it you might have heard of before. Chasing an elusive and invisible missing element of work has been challenging. I started off not knowing what I was looking for, but the mission was worth it. When we can identify a feeling or an emotion, a sense of something for which we have no common language, and we create a narrative bridge, it's like when a fuzzy image slowly comes into focus. The shape was already familiar, but we couldn't quite make it out. Just like the question, "Why are we here?" will come into focus in the coming sections. We'll witness how a happy, healthy, high-performing culture can take shape, and how it can move from an idea to a reality. Join me as we rediscover the power to solve big things together. Again. Part 1. The Foundation. 1. Hope. In an article for War Room, Colonel Jeffrey Weber of the U.S. Air Force's Judge Advocate General Corps writes that during his time in the military, he'd often hear the sentiment, "Hope is not a strategy." By itself, hope will not help a team improve their financial numbers or their products. But when hope is combined with careful planning, it can have a big impact. Weber writes, "Today's strategy makers would do well to remember this. The hope is not a strategy mindset results in inaction and paralysis, while a strategy of hope inspires creativity and bold action." If ever there was a time for more hope, it's today. Research finds that being exposed to persistent crisis gives rise to feelings of hopelessness, cynicism, and aggression. A 2023 study finds that persistent hopelessness decreases our sense of belonging, community, and performance. It also makes us susceptible to fight or flight responses that increase emotional volatility. In 1990, the United Nations Development Program, UNDP, initiated the Human Development Index, HDI, a summary measure of average achievement in key dimensions of human development: a long and healthy life, being knowledgeable, and having a decent standard of living. For the first time in its history, the HDI has decreased for 2 consecutive years, and for more than 90% of countries. Their 2023-2024 report reads, "The ground beneath our feet is shifting, introducing a new kind of uncertainty for which we have no real guide." And yet the UNDP offers hope. The report suggests that the turbulence and uncertainty we've been facing has also given us tools to flourish, and that through good leadership and collective action, by unlocking our human potential, by tapping into our creativity and diversity, we can create a future in which we thrive. When we are wondering, why are we here? Hope is the answer. Everything that I'll advocate for in this book can be made possible with hope. But hope also increases our trust in people and institutions, and that trust offers myriad positives. More hope and trust mean healthier perceptions that we have social support. Feeling supported leads to more inclusive attitudes and openness to each other's thoughts and opinions. Feeling supported makes us kinder. Our psychological safety increases, and that makes us less fearful, less resistant, more creative. Hope is a strategy like no other. It is at the core of human progress, and it will be the skill to build today for a healthy, happy, and high-performing workplace culture. The kind of culture that transforms the future of work for the better. Next, we'll talk about what drives hopelessness, and then offer some solutions. The drivers of hopelessness. Amisha Jha, neuroscientist, associate professor of psychology at the University of Miami, and author of Peak Mind, posits that uncertainty in short bursts can be healthy, fostering the development of skills like emotional flexibility and cognitive optimism. The capacity to quickly pivot and take a new approach to solving a problem increases confidence and risk tolerance. However, prolonged uncertainty, as in the case of living through a multi-year polycrisis or a period of corporate instability, can be emotionally and mentally catastrophic, Jha shared with me. With societal and economic stressors impacting working memory, attention is now focused on policing instincts and behaviors, as well as overcoming impulses and habits. All of this sucks up limited attention and finite working memory capacity, leaving few cognitive resources for anything else, Jha says. Prolonged exposure to crisis situations can lead to heightened states of stress and anxiety, making us more susceptible to fight or flight responses. We overreact to minor issues. We have difficulty collaborating with colleagues, or we may struggle to manage or respond appropriately to workplace challenges. If we used to be unfazed, we now sweat the small stuff. We might be quicker to anger or emotionally volatile. One minute we're upbeat, and the next we've crashed. Today's youth have been particularly impacted by a sense of hopelessness. Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, CDC data, shows that 44% of high schoolers in the United States report feeling persistently sad and hopeless. On a global scale, the most recent World Happiness Report revealed that once again in 2024, levels of reported youth happiness have declined in North America, South America, Europe, South Asia, the Middle East, and North Africa. This concerning downward trend started in 2006, but it's fallen precipitously in recent years, and now youth are less happy than older cohorts. In the report, Canada was ranked as 15th happiest country in the world, but if you consider just Canadians under 30, the country's ranking plummets to 58th. UK and US data were similar. For the first time, the United States didn't even make it into the top 20, all because the youngest generations are some of the least happy people in the world. The report, led jointly by Oxford Wellbeing Research Center and the UN Sustainable Development Solutions Network, and which leveraged Gallup data, found that people under 30 are feeling less autonomy, they perceive their social support systems to be weak, and they are concerned about their financial future. Data also finds that the impact of climate change and global instability is wearing down young people. Professor Yann-Emmanuel Deneuve, an editor of the report and director of Oxford's Wellbeing Research Center, said, To think that in some parts of the world, children are experiencing the equivalent of a midlife crisis demands immediate policy action. For organizations today, a future workforce that can't picture themselves in it is more than just problematic, it's dire. Unhappiness isn't just affecting our youth either. The 4th Annual Mental State of the World report found that mental well-being, at both the global and individual level, remained at its post-pandemic low, which was largely unchanged after a sharp drop during the pandemic years. And Gallup finds that 41% of adults say they experienced a lot of worry the previous day, and claims 1 in 3 blame work for their declining mental health. Research has established a bidirectional link between financial stress and mental health. Financial stress decreases well-being, and then poor mental well-being negatively affects finances. In an interview for a study led by the Financial Health Network, one 25-year-old female student shared, "When I am depressed, much like how I feel most days lately, I tend to make more impulsive buying decisions. Buying something I like makes me feel better temporarily, and then I am back to feeling depressed again later on." This vicious cycle further exacerbates the symptoms of chronic stress that impact worker self-efficacy and productivity. It also leads to social withdrawal and isolation, a challenge for building cohesive cultures. Environmental issues and the ongoing climate crisis continue to cause significant anxiety and hopelessness. Research finds that feelings of powerlessness in the face of such a vast and complex problem can lead to a sense of despair. Moreover, climate change has recently shifted from an abstract fear to a day-to-day threat for worker safety. An estimated 2,300 people in the United States died from heat-related illness in 2023, triple the annual average between 2004 and 2018. For those 50 million workers at risk, there is a double tax on their mental and physical health. As a result, the first major federal government regulation to protect Americans from heat on the job is in the works. However, there's an expectation for significant pushback, which only serves to exacerbate hopelessness. Increasing political and social polarization has made it more difficult for people to engage in constructive dialogue and find common ground. This division contributes to feelings of frustration and hopelessness, as individuals feel unable to affect change or make their voices heard. In the workplace, the polarization has increased bias and intolerance, which have strong negative impacts on our sense of belonging. Underemployment is another factor in driving increased hopelessness. Carol Graham, Senior Fellow of Economic Studies at the Brookings Institute, discovered that increased isolation and loneliness from chronic unemployment is leading to a rise in deaths of despair. In the last decade, we've seen a 72% increase in deaths from alcohol poisoning, overdose, or suicide. Graham says the problem is particularly impacting males ages 24 to 54 in the United States who aren't simply unemployed but lack any formal labor market attachment, and as a result, they are the least hopeful and most stressed and angry compared to the same group in other regions globally. The fear of layoffs is playing a role too. Research has long shown that layoffs have a detrimental effect on individuals and on corporate performance, writes Sandra J. Sucher and Marilyn Morgan Westner. The short-term cost savings provided by a layoff are often overshadowed by bad publicity, loss of knowledge, weakened engagement, higher voluntary turnover, and lower innovation, all of which hurt profits in the long run. To make intelligent and humane staffing decisions in the current economic turmoil, leaders must understand what's different about today's larger social landscape. Having a job is more than just paying the bills, finds Graham. Her study confirmed that having meaning and purpose from full-time employment not only increases life satisfaction and hope, but makes us far less likely to fall into despair and even buffers us from falling prey to misinformation. In this instance, the bidirectionality is positive. People who have more hope maintain employment for longer and work with a sense of purpose to improve the world. Graham claims that hope is an important part of the equation, specifically because it has agentic properties, whereby the individual assumes to have power over their goals, actions, and destiny. Although it's to be expected that layoffs and terminations are still part of the normal practice of running a company, in 2023, U.S. layoffs were 98% higher than in 2022. There were several high-profile examples of companies that seriously lacked compassion in the execution. And evidence finds that loud firing weighs on people's hope and decreases their overall trust in institutions. Layoffs can significantly diminish hope within an organization, leading to a pervasive sense of uncertainty and anxiety among employees. When layoffs occur, they often signal instability and a lack of future prospects, which can erode employees' optimism about their career growth and the company's trajectory. Fear of being next to lose your job can overshadow daily work, reducing motivation and engagement. Employees who feel insecure and hopeless are less likely to take risks or invest in long-term projects. To maintain a hopeful and forward-looking workforce, companies should rethink whether layoffs are worth it. Over time, the constant exposure to stressful conditions increases feelings of exhaustion, cynicism, and reduced professional efficacy. As a result, today's workforce has been battling impaired cognitive functions such as attention, memory, and decision-making. The prefrontal cortex, which plays a crucial role in executive functions like decision-making, planning, and impulse control, is particularly sensitive to the effects of hopelessness. This list of factors contributing to hopelessness is not intended to make you feel less hopeful. Great leaders aren't fair-weather leaders. They meet the moment by facing reality. And right now, more than ever, leaders need to see hope as a strategy. The data may feel overwhelming, but there are ways to reignite hope, which we will get into now. Developing a foundation for hope. Hope is one of the best remedies for tackling uncertainty and quieting an anxious mind. It helps people envision a concrete path to a better situation, empowering them to set goals and make plans to reach that positive outcome. Hope also drives action. It is a more tangible skill to develop than, say, empathy, because it is goal-oriented. We can increase hope skills through daily application, such as making your bed. By accomplishing a small task at the start of the day, your brain predicts that you can accomplish more and bigger goals. Related emotions, like empathy, are developed through modeling, active listening, and trying to relate to another person's experiences. Bias is a cognitive barrier to empathy, which makes this skill harder to build. It can be done. It's just a lengthier process. Hope, according to positive psychologist Charles Snyder, is a cognitive process characterized by a triadic model: goals, pathways, and agency. Goals: setting clear objectives. Pathways: identifying strategies to achieve them. Agency: fostering the belief in one's capacities to execute these strategies. Goals must be specific, measurable, and achievable to provide direction and purpose, but it's necessary for leaders to work with their team to ensure that goals are motivating. Motivation is highly personalized because it is deeply influenced by individual differences, including personal values, needs, goals, and life experiences. Understanding individual differences in motivation is crucial in supporting goal achievement. Although goals can be shared, the pathway to getting there should be unique. Pathways refer to the routes or strategies individuals or teams can use to achieve their goals. This involves creative thinking and problem solving to navigate obstacles, specific to each member of the team. It also means coming up with a plan A and a plan B, even a plan C. Identifying multiple pathways to reach goals is the key to building hope. When people have fallbacks or various plans to achieve their goals, it increases the likelihood of achieving those objectives. Relying on just one plan risks failure, thereby decreasing confidence in achieving future goals. Strategies to achieve goals can come out of brainstorming sessions or one-on-ones with leaders and/or peers. Managers and leaders should also provide resources and support to explore these pathways. Next, leaders and employees should co-create goals and pathways to increase success. Agency is a key motivational component to initiating and sustaining action toward goal achievement. Self-efficacy is believing in ourselves, and resilience is the fortitude to keep going even when plans A and B and C fail. By fostering a sense of agency and encouraging feedback and helpful guidance, leaders can keep employees on track. Making a point to recognize both the small and big wins helps maintain momentum. Offering goal-specific opportunities for professional development also helps create an environment where employees feel empowered to take initiative and make decisions. Encourage a growth mindset by promoting a culture where challenges are viewed as opportunities to learn and grow. Leaders can model hopeful behavior by demonstrating optimism, resilience, and a proactive approach to problem solving. We've learned that hope can be developed by proactive problem solving, but research also finds that hope can be developed through productivity, routine, and mastery. It may surprise you how easy it is to tactically approach hope skill building. It really boils down to infusing hope into the small, everyday actions we take for granted at work so that the existential problems don't weigh us down. If we can help our workforce achieve a sense of competence and control over their environment, we can foster optimism about future outcomes. According to psychologist Albert Bandura, when individuals experience mastery, they build self-efficacy, the belief in their ability to influence events that affect their lives. This increased self-efficacy enhances their resilience and capacity to maintain hope even in challenging situations. For instance, research highlights that individuals who engage in activities that improve their skills and knowledge often report higher levels of hope and motivation. Organizations that promote skill development and personal growth cultivate hope cultures and improve overall well-being. Developing mastery starts by setting up tangible goals and giving people the agency to meet them. Setting and achieving goals. Google's framework is really about hope. Frameworks and patterns are incredibly important, especially for the younger workforce, to build up cognitive hope skills. Research finds that recognizing patterns allows young adults to better learn and adapt, helping them to have a stronger capacity to predict outcomes and learn from social interactions. This learning process enables them to adapt their behavior to social norms and expectations, behavior that is crucial for social success and personal development. Patterns also provide a sense of control and certainty in a world that is constantly changing. Gen Zs and a large swath of the millennial workforce grew up as digital natives, accustomed to the algorithm-driven content of social media, which is designed to present patterned and consistent information. This workforce expects similar patterns in other areas of life. Patterns and routine aren't just healthy for Gen Zs. When the workforce is exhausted by change and instability, future planning with structured goal setting and markers for success will be well received. Explicit communication, helps employees to know what is expected of them and what high performance looks like. Google encourages teams to set objectives that are ambitious and feel somewhat uncomfortable. The logic is that even if you fall short, you'll likely achieve more than you would with a less challenging goal. Objectives are formulated to be action-oriented, giving a clear direction of what is to be achieved. Once goals are set, the next step in Google's process focuses on creating what the company calls a pathways mindset that sees challenges as detours rather than roadblocks. At Google, the Objectives and Key Results (OKRs) process is highly collaborative. Employees at all levels are encouraged to set their individual OKRs and contribute to their team's OKRs as well. This bottom-up approach ensures that an employee's goals reflect what they find motivating and align with their skills and career aspirations. Google is widely recognized for its successful implementation of their key objectives because they are committed to transparency. Teams hold brainstorming sessions where everyone can suggest objectives and key results, which are then discussed and refined together. All employees at Google have the ability to review each other's plans, which promotes an environment where openness is valued. At the end of each quarter, Google's leaders set high benchmarks and measure the outcomes of key results on a scale of 0 to 1.0. A score within the 0.6 to 0.7 range is typically seen as a mark of achievement, whereas OKRs that fall below this range highlight areas for potential development in the upcoming quarter. This methodology has been effective for Google and has also influenced many other companies to embrace a similar approach for setting and tracking goals. Maintaining a 5-to-1 ratio of positive feedback to constructive feedback empowers employees by giving them ownership of their projects and the autonomy to make decisions within their scope of work. This responsibility can lead to a greater sense of investment in their work and an increased belief in their ability to impact the outcome. Mastery comes from continuous learning and adapting. By investing in employee education and development, organizations can help workers stay adaptable, a key aspect of maintaining hope in the face of change. Encouraging employees to consider their own professional development might include learning new skills or taking on projects that stretch their abilities. By aligning personal development with company objectives, employees can see a clear connection between their work and their career trajectory. A critical part of hope building is progress. This is why reasonably ambitious goals are necessary, but they need to be challenging enough. Not so challenging that goals are unreachable, and not so simple that goals are too easy to achieve. Increasing cognitive hope patterns our brain to keep stretching our aspirations. Leaders build hope by doubling down on consistent plans and pathways to goals. Building hope is also how leaders build trust in themselves and their organizations. What more can leaders do? On an everyday basis, leaders can make a substantial impact. Despite the challenge leaders face today in addressing the more existential threats plaguing their workforce, even incremental change, or just an effort to pursue a solution, helps people feel more hopeful. Research indicates that actively engaging in problem solving, even if the outcome remains uncertain, can significantly boost individuals' sense of hope and psychological well-being. Research on coping strategies by psychologists Charles Carver, Michael F. Shire, and Jagdish K. Weintraub suggests that proactive coping, where individuals confront challenges head-on rather than avoiding them, enhances emotional resilience and hopefulness. By taking a proactive, problem-solving approach to some of these key issues, organizations can build a hopeful culture. We may not eradicate a stressor, but at least we can work actively toward a solution. And those micro steps can have an enormous impact on employee well-being and engagement. Let's take two of the bigger stressors impacting our workforce today: climate change and financial instability. Hope and climate change. During the 2024 World Economic Forum WEF annual meeting, the topic of hope was ever present, with an acknowledgement that eco-anxiety is a realistic response to the existential threat of climate change. In an effort to turn apathy into action, WEF launched multiple projects to help young people bring about the change they wish to see in the world. All cultures embrace hope as a powerful collective energy that gives meaning to and sustains human existence. Yet hope isn't just a state of mind, or something that we simply have, or buy, or wish into existence. Hope, in the nature and climate crisis, happens when our thoughts translate into words and actions large and small, WEF stated. The organization also called on individuals and organizations to think about how our thoughts, words, and actions might become a performance of hope, and urged people to share their ideas and innovations on social media using the hashtag #PerformingHope. Global organizations like EY, Microsoft, the Bayer Foundation, and others signed the Rise Ahead pledge to commit to building social innovations that solve some of these biggest problems facing the world today. There are countless ways we can demonstrate hope through action in fighting climate change at work. Here are some effective solutions. Establish company-wide sustainability programs. These programs encourage employees to participate in environmental efforts. This can include recycling programs, energy conservation measures, and green commuting options. Form employee-led green teams or sustainability committees. These teams can spearhead environmental projects, promote eco-friendly practices, and serve as ambassadors for sustainability within the organization. Offer regular training sessions and workshops. These sessions can provide employees with knowledge and skills that empower them to take meaningful actions. Launch engaging campaigns. These internal employee campaigns could include climate-related challenges, such as reducing carbon footprints, conserving water, or participating in community cleanup events. Recognize and reward employees who actively contribute to these initiatives. For example, Patagonia's employee community support includes a Patagonia Action Works platform that connects employees with environmental and social causes they care about, encouraging them to engage in meaningful work that can also have financial benefits through grants and donations. Integrate sustainable practices. Examples of such practices include adopting green technologies, sourcing eco-friendly materials, setting measurable sustainability goals, and developing corporate social responsibility (CSR) programs that focus on environmental issues. Create solutions-based platforms. Provide ways for employees to propose innovative solutions for reducing the company's environmental footprint. Encourage cross-functional collaboration and implement the best ideas. Recognize and reward. Highlight employees who make significant contributions to sustainability efforts. Recognition could include awards, bonuses, or public acknowledgement. Walk the talk. Ensure that company leaders are visibly committed to sustainability. When leaders actively participate in and champion environmental initiatives, their actions set a powerful example for employees. Integrate sustainability into employee well-being. Promote activities like walking or cycling to work, healthy eating with local and organic foods, and mindfulness practices that connect with nature. By implementing these policies and programs, leaders can cultivate a culture of hope and proactive engagement, empowering employees to contribute positively to climate change efforts and feel more hopeful about the future. Cost of living. Because the rising cost of living is one of the biggest stressors facing today's workforce, it's important for leaders to help their employees see a hopeful financial future. It's highly demotivating when people feel like, no matter what they do, they can't get ahead. This pervasive sentiment has been a major driver of disengagement for a younger workforce that is questioning, what's the point? Lack of financial well-being makes people ask, why are we here? To address the challenges of inflation and cost of living stresses, leaders can implement several policies, programs, and strategies that foster hope and encourage proactive behavior among employees. Here are 3 suggestions. Develop financial wellness programs. These could include budgeting workshops, debt management counseling, and investment education. Regularly adjust salaries. Make fair salary adjustments to keep pace with inflation and rising living costs. This practice ensures that employees maintain their purchasing power while reducing financial stress. Matching contributions or providing seed money can encourage employees to build a financial safety net. Develop peer support programs. These programs, which encourage employees to share resources, such as carpooling groups or housing information, can make a big difference, helping build hope through community building. A number of companies offer supports of various kinds. For example, Intel's employee resource groups, ERGs, include a financial wellness group that organizes events, shares financial resources, and provides peer support for financial planning. Intel also offers an internal marketplace for employees to buy and sell goods and services. Salesforce's internal community support includes Circles of Success, where employees can share best practices and resources related to financial well-being. The company also offers an internal marketplace for employees to exchange goods and services, and a comprehensive financial wellness program that includes budgeting tools, retirement planning, and investment education. Google provides student loan reimbursement and one-on-one financial coaching. Their peer-to-peer community boards encourage Googlers to share resources like financial advice and tips. PricewaterhouseCoopers, PwC, has a financial wellness program that includes access to personal finance coaches, financial literacy courses, and an online portal where employees can track their financial health. PwC also encourages resource sharing among employees through internal forums and workshops. By implementing these policies and programs, leaders can create a supportive environment that mitigates the impact of inflation and cost of living stresses, fostering a sense of hope and proactive engagement among employees. The path forward. As we navigate the multifaceted challenges facing today's workforce, it's crucial to recognize that hope is not merely an abstract concept, but a mission for our times. Jane Goodall, renowned primatologist and anthropologist and author of The Book of Hope, writes, "Hope is what enables us to keep going in the face of adversity. It is what we desire to happen, but we must be prepared to work hard to make it so." Burnout, mental illness, financial stress, and the overarching threats of polycrisis and climate change have left many employees feeling overwhelmed and hopeless. These drivers of despair are formidable, yet they can be mitigated through deliberate and proactive problem-solving approaches that foster a culture of hope and resilience. Implementing proactive problem-solving strategies can significantly impact how employees perceive and respond to these challenges. By setting clear goals and empowering employees to take initiative, organizations can cultivate a sense of mastery and control. This not only improves individual well-being, but also enhances collective morale. For instance, engaging employees in sustainability initiatives or financial wellness programs provides tangible avenues for them to contribute to meaningful change, reinforcing their sense of purpose and agency. Maintaining job security and avoiding layoffs are critical components of fostering hope in the workplace. In times of economic uncertainty, ensuring stable employment can alleviate significant financial stress and promote psychological safety. Companies that invest in reskilling and upskilling their workforce demonstrate a commitment to their employees' long-term success, further building trust and loyalty. Likewise, creating an environment where employees feel safe to voice concerns and take risks without fear of retribution is essential for sustaining hope and innovation. By prioritizing hope, we can create a work culture where everyone feels valued, supported, and empowered to make a difference. When we share a belief that the collective can achieve more than the sum of its parts, we can foster environments of hope where every individual, regardless of their struggles, can contribute their unique strengths and perspectives. Charles Snyder's hope theory tells us that hope is not a mere abstract concept, but a quantifiable psychological construct. It serves as a powerful antidote to uncertainty by equipping employees with emotional resilience and determination to persevere through tough times. As organizations grapple with the growing economic, sociological, and technological challenges of rapidly changing times, it's evident that hope is not merely a feel-good sentiment, but a scientifically backed strategy. By nurturing hope within the workplace, we empower individuals to not only envision a future, but to actively shape it. 2. Purpose. After his dad passed away, Ben took over as president of the family business. His father was deeply beloved in the community, his death a tragic loss felt by all. The Markham factory manufactured tractor lifts and other equipment for farmers with disabilities. The company was more than just a big economic driver. It was the heart of their small town. Ben struggled to lead the team in the aftermath of his father's passing. He described his grief to me as debilitating. The loss also showed up in his team. I was worried about their mental health too, he told me. To honor his father and lift his spirits, Ben decided to hit the road and talk to customers, a favorite pastime of his dad. The first stop was just down the road, where Jack Miller, a lifetime friend and customer, lived. I got there and his 3 kids were playing outside. Ava is the littlest. Oh man, she's hilarious. I've known the Millers forever, Ben said. Then suddenly, Ben's happy memory dissolved. You could see it in his eyes. He told me that Jack and his wife Nicole had been in a car accident. Jack ended up paralyzed from the waist down. Tragically, Nicole died instantly. Ben asked Jack if it was okay to video record their conversation, his dad's way of taking notes. Jack agreed. Just before I sat down, though, I gave Jack this giant hug, and he just kind of broke down. I told him I was turning off the camera. No, these are grateful tears, he said, and he was laughing, so I kept rolling. As Ben filmed, he learned how badly Jack had struggled after Nicole's death, and he learned about his difficulty navigating his disability, which made it hard to work the farm. But when the accessible machinery from Ben's shop showed up at the house, it was like a huge weight had been lifted from his body and his mind. He'd been terrified to tell the kids they might have to sell the farm. They buried her by the big oak, Ben said. He was relieved that Jack could keep the farm. It meant Jack could keep Nicole close, too. 2 weeks later, Ben stopped by the factory line and gathered everyone to watch the video. It was emotional. They kept telling me how it made them feel proud, that they wanted everyone to know about the work they do, said Ben. Now Ben regularly brings people into the plant to share their stories, and he rotates bringing his crew out in the field once every month. This is part of the onboarding process. Before any new hires start on the line, Ben takes them out to meet people who have been impacted by what they do. "I get so many people applying for jobs here now," Ben said. "I guess the word gets around. My crew is always sharing these wonderful stories from the farms we visit and the people they meet." Ben's story resonated deeply with me. It reminds me of my purpose, why I ask people to tell me their stories, why I want to improve people's experience of work. This is it, right here. As an added bonus, purpose-driven strategies have a substantial impact on culture and employee happiness, especially in times of high uncertainty and change when the workforce is feeling more than typical stress and anxiety. Unhappiness at work comes with a hefty price tag. Gallup claims that in 1 year, unhappiness at work cost the global economy $1.9 trillion in lost productivity. Needless to say, novel and evolving expectations of the workforce can't be addressed with old frameworks. The problem is deeper and more nuanced. Employers must shift their thinking urgently, or the cost of unhappiness at work will continue to escalate. Rediscovering happiness at work starts with purpose. The power of purpose. More than ever, purpose is an essential retention driver. Employees with purpose-driven companies are 40% more likely to stay in their job, and 64% say it makes them feel more fulfilled. In a delightful twist of irony, organizations that prioritize purpose over profits end up being more profitable, perhaps because, as evidence suggests, companies focused on purpose are typically more innovative and have higher engagement and customer loyalty. When employees feel that their purpose is aligned with the organization's purpose, McKinsey research finds that the benefits expand to include heightened loyalty and a greater willingness to recommend the company to others. Purpose also predicts higher worker cohesion, which boosts productivity by 50% in collaborative environments. Other studies find that when employees feel their purpose at work, they report work and life outcomes that are 2 to 5 times higher than those reported by unfulfilled peers. A 2022 research study published in the Journal of Preventative Medicine analyzed over 13,000 participants and found that, regardless of race and ethnicity, purpose lowers the risk of death significantly. Women with the highest sense of purpose had a 34% lower risk of death compared to those with the lowest. Men with high purpose had a 20% lower risk of death. Conversely, a study by McKinsey showed that employees who are less satisfied with their sense of purpose at work report lower outcomes in terms of energy, life satisfaction, and excitement about work, which inevitably translates to negative outcomes for the business. The importance of purpose in the workplace is underscored by the fact that 70% of employees say their sense of purpose is defined by their work. This highlights a clear opportunity for employers to help employees find an intrinsic sense of fulfillment in their roles. In a polycrisis, it's even more critical to embed purpose in our culture strategies. The McKinsey research also discovered that 66% of employees say that the pandemic caused them to reflect on their purpose in life. 1 in 2 employees say, "The pandemic made me reconsider the work I do." And millennials were 3 times more likely to say that they were re-evaluating work in light of the crisis. Deloitte's 2024 Gen Z and Millennial Survey analyzed 22,800 responses from 44 countries and found that 9 out of 10 respondents say having a sense of purpose is essential for job satisfaction and well-being. However, less than half of Gen Zs and millennials believe business is having a positive impact on society, which reveals a gap between what they expect and what they see as being delivered. Martin Seligman, renowned researcher, author, psychologist, and founder of positive psychology, told me that purpose is key to rediscovering the connection we once had with work. Seligman has been talking about happiness in life and its interplay with work for over half a century. In our conversation, he pointed out that money was injected into work in the last 500 years. Before that, the way we derived value from work was much different. If I had to repair my roof, I didn't get money for it. It was to stop the leak, and that was work. But the result was intrinsic to it, says Seligman. He confesses he's noticed a deficit of work's meaning, and there's been an even greater loss of that over the last few years. When we have ownership of the work, we're part of solving for something. It's an intrinsic motivation, a problem you want to solve versus it being some sort of external responsibility, he told me. Seligman added that the problem-solving mindset is even more critical now than ever. We don't want a workforce replete with a sense of learned helplessness. We want workers to come in with a growth mindset that is ready for change and resilient, a mindset that hasn't already catastrophized the hypothetical outcomes of their day before they even show up. Connecting purpose to daily tasks at work plays a role in generating a growth mindset, an important psychological weapon against boredom and burnout. Putting purpose into the mundane. According to Asana's Anatomy of Work Global Index, 62% of the day is lost to repetitive and mundane tasks. Imagine if we could make at least some of that time more enjoyable, particularly since bore-out, essentially chronic boredom, has become an increasingly pressing issue for employers and employees. One study of 11,000 workers in Finland found that job boredom increased the likelihood of employees' turnover and early retirement intentions, poor self-rated health, poor workability, and stress symptoms. The study also learned that the most likely candidate for chronic boredom at work are males under 36, employed in transportation, manufacturing, arts, recreation, and entertainment. I recently spoke with Adam Grant, organizational psychologist, best-selling author, and chairman of BetterUp's Center for Purpose and Performance. Grant has been at the forefront of research related to meaning and purpose for several decades. He says that a sense of meaning and purpose compensates for any imperfect job in a lot of ways. If I did not enjoy every minute of my work, or I am finding it stressful or frustrating, there is a justification for doing it, right? He says. I am willing to put up with some of the unpleasantness. And I think that what I see a lot of leaders get wrong about this is they are like, oh, people need a sense of purpose. Let us create a more noble, uplifting mission statement, he says. I think that what leaders need to recognize is my sense of meaning comes from a line of sight between what I do and the impact it has on other people's lives. And so you need to show me that my job makes a difference, not that the organization is saving the world. Grant suggests that we can make those connections for our employees by helping them connect their work to their core values. This discussion recalls Milton Rokeach's distinction between terminal values versus instrumental values. Terminal values are our ultimate life goals, like leading a long and happy life or saving the planet. Instrumental values are the daily things we do to achieve those goals. For instance, eating healthy, exercising, or volunteering for environmental causes are steps toward these broader objectives. Consider a global payments company that is regularly listed among the top 5 best companies to work for. The company has high rankings on employee review sites. Its mission statement reads, "Become essential to our customers by providing differentiated products and services to help them achieve their aspirations." Now imagine Catherine, the director of marketing for a division of that company. Her terminal value, her ultimate goal, is to help solve the climate crisis, and every day she leverages her instrumental values by making sacrifices to support that goal. She thrifts, composts, buys local, and opts for a bicycle over a car. Tonight, Catherine is in a boardroom with her colleagues in the final hours before launching a pilot for customers and small businesses. The digital campaign is going to help her small business customers better understand their own carbon footprint and engage in efforts to remove CO2 from the air. The whole team has been working hard leading up to the launch. They brought in potluck so they can go through all the pre-launch testing, fix any formatting issues on the emails, make sure monitoring is working, and triple-check website readiness. All fairly mundane administrative tasks. Tonight would be the least exciting part of Catherine's work, but she's not even thinking about that. Actually, Catherine is buzzing. She feels like this was a big accomplishment, and the payoff will be worth it. She notices her colleagues are all intensely engaged, and the room is full of positive energy. For Catherine, the routine aspects of her job fade into the background. She is exhilarated by the team's effort and the positive impact their work will have. When organizations learn what truly matters to their people and integrate purpose into these daily tasks, it can play a meaningful role in reducing boredom and monotony, which can cause chronic stress and burnout. When people work in ways that conflict with their values, it creates ongoing friction and a cognitive dissonance between what they want to be doing and what they're actually doing. Make discovering purpose a priority. Leaders should strive to make people feel good about their work. But leaders can't control every moment or every day. Some of the best jobs can feel like a grind sometimes. Lately, people feel like those good days happen only rarely or never. Purpose-driven strategies can be a buffer against this grind. It may seem like a massive challenge to figure out what makes every single Catherine tick and connect them to the perfect role. But the key isn't perfection. It goes back to helping people feel connected to their values and then giving them the freedom to achieve those goals without constraints. Today, aligning employee values to their work is mission critical. The same Deloitte survey referenced earlier in this chapter found that half of Gen Zs and 43% of millennials have rejected an assignment or project based on their personal ethics or beliefs, and just as many have turned down a job offer for the same reasons. Unfortunately, while 85% of executives and upper management feel they are living their purpose at work, only 15% of frontline managers and employees feel the same. This gap is substantial and points to a disconnect between different organizational levels. When people are chronically stressed and burned out at work, it's challenging to stay connected with the bigger picture. We saw this with Ben and his team. But when we connect our purpose to the work, it can be incredibly powerful. For leaders, making that connection to the purpose can be challenging, and it's simpler than one might think. To fix this nuanced problem, we must get personal. It's the only way we can make people feel like we care about them again. We must rebuild trust and help people align their values with the work. It is vital to create space and opportunity for people to discover their purpose. Deloitte's Chief of Human Sustainability, Jen Fisher, told me about a proactive approach within the company called Wizards, a 5,000-person well-being employee resource group that call on each other for both personal and professional problem-solving. They crowdsource information to help others constantly learn and grow. Fisher says that people love being a wizard. It fuels their purpose to hear all the stories of her colleagues showing kindness and altruism across the firm. She added, I think a lot of people are struggling with how do we make this connection to organizational purpose if I don't directly identify with the organization's purpose. Well, you don't have to, but it can still show up in you every single day. In practical terms, Deloitte's wizards might hold terminal values such as making the world kinder, reducing loneliness, or ending mental health stigma. Then these values translate into action like giving public shout-outs to colleagues who are doing amazing work, organizing group lunches for people who have solitary jobs, or hosting a session where leaders get to talk about their own mental health struggles. These activities enable employees to connect their personal purpose to their work, enhancing motivation and engagement. As Fisher told me, when you talk about what engages people in their work, it might not always be the exact work that they're doing, but it's the ability to bring what they're passionate about to their work. Isaac H. Smith and Mariam Kuchaki liken imposing corporate purpose on employees to parents forcing a child to eat their vegetables. Instead, leaders should try to create purpose congruence, which is fostered through a work environment where an employee's personal purpose and the company's purpose can coexist, often reinforcing each other. Smith, an associate professor at BYU Marriott School of Business, and Kuchaki, professor of management and organizations at the Kellogg School of Management, suggests several strategies to create purpose congruence. During the onboarding phase, let new hires know that the organization is committed to supporting their personal purpose discovery. Ensure that there will be time and space for reflection and formalized pathways to support their goals. Part of that formalization includes sharing their purpose with their peers, leaders, and team to connect with others on a similar journey. Leaders should seek out ways to align purpose to opportunities and work assignments as often as possible. The authors also suggest having both informal purpose discovery and formal tactics that can include small group workshops or team-building exercises to discuss and connect purpose to everyday jobs. Making it a routine to discuss purpose at work can keep both managers and employees accountable to the goal. Purpose prompts help everyone stay on track. They can be built into performance reviews, goal-setting processes, team meetings, mentoring conversations, and after-event reviews. Creating space for purpose discovery at work gives employees the opportunity to explore and align their personal values and goals with their professional roles. Doing so not only helps retain talent, it also offers employees a deeper sense of fulfillment and contributes to a happier and higher-performing organizational culture. Purpose in action. Employers might question whether concepts like purpose actually produce measurable outcomes. As Grant and other researchers, including me, note, yes, it can. But, since it's a long-game strategy, it often receives insufficient investment. However, applied positive psychology has gained traction when it comes to organizational commitment. Testing well-being interventions and linking them to specific company performance measures, we can see their effectiveness in real time. This is why I advocate for incorporating measurable elements when you implement any of the actions I suggest. Starting could be as simple as asking people how they feel about their jobs before you start putting theories into practice, and then ask them again after the activities are rolling. Of course, there are plenty of ways to measure, but measuring doesn't have to be overly complicated. The key is to make sure what you're doing is making at least incremental improvements. Otherwise, what's the point? So with a clear understanding of the why now, let's get started with the how-to. Now we'll go over a series of interventions from a wide range of industries including tech, finance, construction, healthcare, and retail. The idea here is to give a breadth of examples, and to inspire action. Innovation Days. Companies like 3M, Google, and Atlassian all have allocated time for their teams to work on creative projects. It's part of the reason why all three companies consistently land on best places to work lists. Despite the incredible value that protected time for innovating offers all companies, some startups and smaller scale firms are concerned about losing that much time to long view projects. If that's a concern, companies can set up innovation days throughout the year. These days can look like hackathons or ideation gatherings. Experts suggest that innovation days can impact workplace culture, from team building to fostering an environment for more engaged and fulfilled developers. Anytime we can lift people out of their day-to-day tasks and remind them what inspired them to get into their field, we reinforce purpose. Furthermore, injecting novelty into our experience of work is healthy and good for every role in any sector. Experimentation is key to tackling bore-out, a major contributor to disengagement and attrition. Role clarity. Microsoft has ramped up their efforts to align purpose to their objectives and key results, OKRs. Their research found that clear objectives and the ability to track them back to impact is good for employee job satisfaction. According to a recent Microsoft Work Trend Index special report, employees who report having clarity about their work priorities are almost 4 times as likely to stay at the company for more than 2 years. They're also more than 7 times as likely to think less about looking for a new job and almost 5 times as likely to say they're happy at their current company. Anyone who has ever worked on a project that was abandoned with no explanation or pivoted in a direction that didn't make sense knows that abrupt change of plans can be a massive distraction. When unpredictability is part of a culture's brand, their brain will start to subconsciously create self-preservation measures, like not investing as much time and energy into the next project. So leaders, leverage hope theory here. Be clear with a plan, the pathway, and the goals. When people know what is expected of them, they channel their energy and their mental focus more effectively. Weekly Insights. Robin Sisko, President and CFO of Workday, says that recent societal shifts have highlighted the need to double or even triple down on culture. Workday gathers insights from its 13,000 global employees by leveraging brief and confidential surveys every Friday. The survey only takes 1 or 2 minutes, but Cisco says it provides the company with valuable real-time insights into how employees are feeling on a variety of work-related topics. Cisco emphasizes that it's key to be able to more quickly identify and address issues before they fully manifest or turn into attrition. Testing and iterating, being agile and open to trialing new ideas, is how we kickstart a revolution of transformation. The ability for direct managers to take employee sentiment and respond in real time is a highly effective tool when it comes to building purpose-driven cultures. We learn, we act, we build trust, we find purpose. Project Milestone Celebrations. In today's results-driven society, we're all familiar with the relentless pursuit of targets, the incessant ticking of boxes, and the never-ending cycle of reports. While accountability remains paramount, the constant pressure often leaves little room for genuine celebration when goals are met. Instead of basking in our success, we're quick to move on to the next challenge. But here's the thing. Research suggests that taking the time to acknowledge and celebrate achievements is crucial for maintaining mental well-being, promoting self-care, and sustaining motivation. All of these factors underpin purpose-driven cultures. Despite the perception that it might be indulgent or time-consuming, a little bit of high-fiving can go a long way. Here's a great example from a company I've come to admire. Rosendin Electric is an employee-owned electrical contractor headquartered in San Jose, California, with more than 8,500 employees nationwide and annual revenues of approximately $3 billion. Caring is one of their strongest values, and you could see it in many instances across their firm. I spent a few days with their executive and regional leadership team in 2024, and it's been fun to watch what they took away from our conversation. In one of my sessions, I suggested the importance of having fun at work again. The company was still in the midst of rapid growth, and the leaders agreed that lately it did feel a little bit like going to school without the fun parts, art, gym, or recess. I heard from David Lincoln, a senior vice president who'd been with the company for more than 2 decades. You could tell that he was deeply loyal to the company and sincerely cared for the well-being of his team. After our discussion, he told me that he thought his team may be in a funk. A massive team-building event is good, but costly and short-lived, explained David. I wanted something that was repeatable, affordable, and had a lasting effect to ultimately bring the morale back up. So, I jumped on Amazon and bought a big red air raid siren that mounts on a table, installed it in the middle of the office, and cranked it up. Everyone came out of their office, jumped up and out of their cubicles with a look of shock, amazement, laughter, and most of all, everyone was smiling, David said, thrilled. Now, every time we win a project or there is something special to celebrate, David says, we order sandwiches for lunch, gather around the table, and designate someone to crank up the siren, which, by the way, can be heard up to a mile away. It's something that everyone talks about regularly and looks forward to, and in fact, other offices have now followed suit and purchased sirens of their own. Figuring out what works for you and your team here is key, because it all boils down to authenticity. Most of the time, it's the simple, affordable, and repeatable actions that are the most engaging. Sharing goals, celebrating wins, and just having fun together as a team helps us feel like we're all working toward a common purpose. Mentorship programs. An estimated 17.5% of nurses leave their first nursing jobs within a year. Mentorship in these critical first years has been shown to be positively impactful when a healthy corporate hygiene underpins the programming. Research finds that successful mentoring relationships were characterized by reciprocity, mutual respect, clear expectations, personal connection, and shared values. Failed mentoring relationships were characterized by poor communication, lack of commitment, personality differences, perceived or real competition, conflicts of interest, and the mentor's lack of experience. When it's done well, mentorship in healthcare is significant because it also has the potential to improve patient care, increase job satisfaction, and reduce professional burnout. In addition, when mentors and mentees work together, they can address complex healthcare challenges more effectively and contribute to a more robust and resilient healthcare system. For new hires, part of their transition into the day-to-day experience of nursing can be fraught with a sense of disillusionment. In this case, purpose is outsized in comparison to their reality. In a sector where burnout is the most prevalent, it can feel like caregiving is the lowest priority. If in those first few years on the job there is a lack of meaning and attachment to purpose, nurses will quit. Not only should healthcare professionals be paid properly, feel safe, have the right resources to do their job, and be protected from extreme overwork, aka corporate hygiene, a strong mentor relationship can help build that bridge for those just starting out. Mentors can reduce friction from the stark contrasts that exist between ideal and real for younger workers. This action might sound like the following: advocating for mentees who have less agency to speak up, explaining the shorthand that comes with tenured teams, bringing new hires into social opportunities to increase team bonding, being a safe place to ask questions, discussing the highlights of the profession and sharing stories about why their work matters. Far too often, we think that mentorship needs to be formalized with mandatory sessions for connecting. But imagine the difference if we're meeting for a few minutes every day instead of just a scheduled lunch once a month. The most successful mentor-mentee relationships happen through more regular, authentic interactions. This is where we find others who align with our values, and this alignment leads to a shared purpose. The more time we spend fostering these relationships, the deeper the bond. Customer connection. Like Ben at the beginning of the chapter, retelling customer stories can bring meaning to retail employees. Storytelling is critical for product marketing, but when we share stories back to our employees, it can have a profound impact on retention. On September 14, 2022, Patagonia, an American outdoor clothing and gear company, announced that the planet would now be its only corporate shareholder. Every dollar that is not reinvested back into Patagonia will be distributed as dividends to protect the planet. The company expects to pay out roughly $100 million each year to projects that support environmental protection. It's been a half-century since we began our experiment in responsible business, said Yvonne Chouinard, who founded the company in 1973. If we have any hope of a thriving planet 50 years from now, it demands all of us doing all we can with the resources we have. Since the brand's inception, Patagonia has effectively used storytelling to connect its mission and values with its employees, fostering a strong sense of purpose. And this announcement resonated widely. Chouinard explained the motivation behind this decision. Instead of going public, you could say we're going purpose. Leaders at Patagonia also bring the mission into their employees' day-to-day work. They encourage their workers to take daily breaks to surf or hike, just generally spend time in nature. They host campfire conversations where employees and community members share their experiences and stories related to environmental activism and outdoor adventures. They also look at well-being holistically. For example, the company opened an on-site daycare 30 years ago, long before it was in fashion. Their former chief of people, Dean Carter, once said that having children in the workplace reminds him of the company's mission and the purpose of why they're here. The retention rate for mothers returning from maternity leave is 100%. If a breastfeeding mother needs to go on a business trip, the company pays for the mother, the baby, and a nanny to travel for that trip. And Patagonia offers 15 different schedules for warehouse employees, as well as guaranteed schedules up to 3 weeks in advance for retail employees. Perhaps more companies should choose to go purpose over going public. In 2022, the average rate of employee turnover in retail in the United States was 75%, while Patagonia's was 4%. Simple, tactical shifts. As we've discussed, it's hard to find meaning at work if you're overworked and burned out, a common occurrence for retail staff. To mitigate overwork and burnout, keep solutions simple. Try rotational shift planning, where employees have a level of agency in choosing their shifts. Periodic self-rostering is also associated with increased job satisfaction and tolerance to shift work in general. Shared sales incentive programs versus individual sales goals increase cohesion and are directly linked to increased motivation. As Adam Grant emphasized in our conversation, having a meaningful corporate mission and purpose is essential. However, leaders must also ensure that employees feel their individual roles are significant and impactful beyond the company's broader mission to change the world. In retail, there is often a competitive and production-focused environment that prevents purpose. But we can help by creating as many scenarios as possible to celebrate and reward teamwork. Fostering social connections tied to a shared purpose can transform team dynamics, making them resemble a high-performing sports team rather than creating a culture where everyone is out for themselves. The path forward. I want to underscore the far-reaching implications of understanding and embracing purpose within organizational dynamics. It's easy to rely on those baked-in heuristics, the mental patterning that has us focus only on what is measurable in the moment, relying on a framework that's already in place. But when we do that, we lose sight of our purpose, creating a work culture that benefits all of us. We want our work as leaders to have significance too. By delving deeper into the stories of those we serve, whether clients, customers, or employees, we take people out of the work and put them in front of the people who are benefiting from their efforts. It's like we're fitting together the pieces of a puzzle, where each task is equally important to creating the bigger picture. The alignment of individual values with corporate mission statements represents a critical junction in fostering organizational cohesion and employee engagement. We need to get away from hammering home the mission statement. Simply repeating a single phrase will not make an impact. Instead, it's incumbent upon leaders to bridge this gap through active listening and empathetic understanding, facilitating the connection between individual motivations and broader organizational imperatives. While compensation undoubtedly plays a role in motivating employees, it is purpose that serves as the linchpin for sustained engagement, fulfillment, and performance within the workplace. In essence, it's the strategic deployment of empathy and purpose-driven leadership that enables companies to cultivate a workforce that is not only productive, but also deeply connected to their professional pursuits and the overarching mission of the organization. In the end, it's these small, yet powerful gestures, grounded in empathy and fueled by purpose, that change our culture and the companies we lead for the better. 3. Community. For years, Kathy was dealing with a series of family crises. Her colleagues had witnessed her intermittent struggles with her parents' declining health as she took family leave and used her paid time off to travel across the country to be with them. In 2016, months after Kathy had made a career jump at Airbnb, her mother passed. Months later, she got a call that her dad was dying, and she returned to her hometown of Syracuse, New York. Following her father's funeral, she boarded a plane back home, unaware of the overwhelming gesture of support that would be waiting for her. To her astonishment, not only had her friend come to meet her at the airport, but she had also brought along 16 other customer service agents, their entire team. They'd welcomed Kathy with a banner and a big hug, a remarkable effort from her peers, who had to go to great lengths to get enough part-time agents to cover for all of them. "I still get emotional thinking about that moment," she told me. "For the first time in a while, I didn't feel alone." Community is commonly defined as a sense of belonging, connectedness, and shared purpose with those around us. For Kathy, her community had transformed an unbearable burden and made it a bit lighter for her to carry. The 2023 Global Culture Study by the O.C. Tanner Institute found that organizations who score high on the Community Index have a 62% increase in employee estimated tenure. Research also finds that strong and productive relationships at work enhance job satisfaction, provide emotional support, and contribute to a positive work environment. According to the American Perspective Survey, Americans are now more likely to make friends at work than any other way, including at school, in their neighborhood, at their place of worship, or even through existing friends. Gallup's Q12 Employee Engagement Survey measures social connectedness in the workplace by asking employees to agree or disagree with this statement: "I have a best friend at work." The responses are then tied to job satisfaction, engagement, and productivity to determine how having community at work enhances company performance. Employees who strongly agree with a statement are significantly more likely to engage customers and internal partners, get more done in less time, support a safe workplace with fewer accidents and reliability concerns, innovate and share ideas, have fun while at work. Recent Gallup data confirms that in this current climate of uncertainty and polycrisis, having a best friend at work is more important than ever. The company's latest research has shown a compelling correlation. There's an even stronger link between having a best friend at work and important outcomes such as employees' likelihood to recommend their workplace, their intent to leave, and their overall satisfaction with their workplace. Not only is there a business case for community, but evidence consistently shows that strong social bonds correlate with longer lifespans, lower stress levels, and improved recovery from illness. By contrast, the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention highlights that the lack of social connections carries a health risk, including heart disease and stroke, type 2 diabetes, depression, and anxiety. John Clifton, CEO of Gallup, has played a major role in advancing conversations about the importance of workplace friends. "We're in a global crisis of loneliness," Clifton told me, with some 20% of adults worldwide who say they have no one to turn to in their hour of need. Today, 15% of young men in the United States claim they have no close friends, a stark contrast to the 3% in the 1990s. In one survey, 69% of respondents say they'd be happier if they had deeper connections with work colleagues. Another research study, led by virtual coaching platform BetterUp, found that 53% of respondents said they would even trade in some of their compensation for stronger ties with colleagues. The same study highlights stark disparities. Workers who reported lower levels of connection at work have a 313% stronger intention to quit, a 176% higher chance of job searching, and ultimately a 39% higher quit rate than their more connected counterparts, the study authors noted. Since lack of community is one of the 6 root causes of burnout, building productive relationships isn't just a motivational strategy. It's fundamental corporate hygiene, especially as a loneliness epidemic is spreading beyond our control. Liquid times. A UK study found that, at the onset of the global pandemic, community cohesion had increased substantially, acting as a buffer against health anxiety and perceived stress during the peak of the crisis. Regrettably, our sense of community has considerably diminished since that time. We've seen a rise in distrust, cynicism, and individualism, the antithesis to healthy communities. The latest Edelman Trust Index reports a high level of mistrust globally. A score of 60 and above is considered trustworthy, but most countries are well below that threshold. The UK, 39, is among the least trusting countries, according to the Trust Index, and none of the other G7 countries are trusting. Canada, 53, Italy, 50, France, 47, U.S., 46, Germany, 45, Japan, 39. Sociologist and philosopher Zygmunt Bauman, in his concept Liquid Modernity, or Liquid Times, tried to describe the fluid and ever-changing nature of the world we live in. He wrote, "The passage from a solid to a liquid modernity is anchored in the idea that social forms and institutions, e.g., family, education, work, etc., have become weaker and fragile. Bauman concedes that in liquid times, our existing frame of reference is no longer useful for our actions long term. Loyalty is no longer useful, as humans now need to construct themselves and to organize their lives in new and unprecedented ways. As we've become increasingly global, we've been able to connect with people all over the world. Ironically, that ability has left us feeling less connected. People are more wary of each other, more critical, punitive, and unforgiving. After years of developing a new habit rooted in a pandemic-era existential fear of being in close contact with other human beings, our best friends, our mothers and fathers, our children, we have to imagine there will be consequences. Bauman's advocacy for civility, the ability to interact with strangers, accommodate differences, and engage in dialogue, underscores the importance of fostering meaningful connections in an era where relationships risk becoming transactional. A number of factors are eroding our sense of community. Increased globalization, overwork, technology, the commodification of relationships, and existential fear have all contributed to that loss in recent years. And that loss is playing out with serious consequences in both our personal and professional lives. We'll discuss these factors and how to address them, but it's important that we don't ignore what is at stake. At work, having a sense of community is vital to organizational well-being, since it increases psychological safety, drives purpose and engagement, and makes work happier, more enjoyable, and fun. A sense of community is also a central part of our lives. To have social connections, healthy friendships, and community bonds are key to our survival. It's also one of the biggest contributors to a long and happy life. More than ever, we need each other. Since we spend most of our waking hours at work, why not start there? You seem competent. We should be friends. When we add healthy friendships to work experience, it makes work more satisfying, decreases loneliness, and makes us want to come to work each day. But a worrying shift has been happening. Today, Gallup data finds that only 3 out of 10 people globally have a best friend at work, down 23% since 2019. The Better Up report also found that 53% of employees don't look forward to work because of coworkers, 43% don't feel a sense of connection to coworkers, and a startling 38% don't trust their coworkers. This is a major problem. If foundational trust is lacking among peers, it's extremely challenging to collaborate efficiently and effectively. The collective intelligence of teams is diminished because a loss of trust equals low psychological safety, which is key to being able to speak up and be heard. And if people don't look forward to work because of unhealthy relationships, employee retention takes a hit. Research underscores the essential friendship chemistry that includes characteristics such as reciprocal candor, mutual interests, personableness, similarity, and physical attraction. Basically, we bond through shared interests and values. We want to be ourselves, for the friendship to come naturally. And we like to have fun, laughing with and trusting each other. Interestingly, research finds that in our new and ever-changing work environments, we're now more attracted to qualities like competency and reliability. While these are undoubtedly valuable traits, they seem more suited to assessments of spreadsheets than cultivating interpersonal relationships, especially considering the substantial amount of time we all spend together in the workplace. But perhaps not. Beth Shanoff, assistant professor of management at the University of Delaware, along with research partner Blake Ashforth, Regents professor at Arizona State University, has observed this shift. She noted in our conversations that these qualities have become new prerequisites for work friendships, a departure from the past when they were less influential in forming connections. Anita Williams-Woolley, Associate Dean of Research and Professor of Organizational Behavior at Carnegie Mellon University's Tepper School of Business, told me about her team's groundbreaking research on team performance. Organizational cohesion stems from clarity of mission goals, effective communication structures, and shared excitement about the organization's objectives. In this context, competency serves as a foundation for productive work, which in turn nurtures healthier relationships. It's a both-and scenario. Competency is crucial for achieving goals, yet maintaining a sense of enjoyment and camaraderie at work is equally important. We need both a competent, reliable team so we can hit our goals, and we still need to have fun so that going to work isn't a total drag. How can we develop a strategy that integrates both competency and community in the workplace, especially with the rise of remote work? The short answer is we need to adapt. The experience of work has changed, so the way we communicate with each other should change too. Hey, competency, meet community. Research conducted by Shanoff, Ashworth, and Kevin Corley aimed to better understand how remote coworkers become friends, and conversely, where those relationships fell apart. They learned that it comes down to participating in multiplex versus simplex relationships. An example of a simplex relationship at work is two coworkers who interact solely based on their professional roles and tasks. Their relationship is straightforward and limited to a single context. A multiplex relationship, on the other hand, occurs when individuals relate to each other in several different roles or capacities. For example, if those same coworkers are also friends outside of work, share hobbies, or support each other emotionally, their relationship spans more than just the professional sphere and becomes multiplex. Leaders who want their organization to develop a thriving culture need to promote multiplex relationships. These coworker/friend relationships increase job satisfaction, improve retention, and are richer and typically more resilient because they integrate various facets of the individual's lives. In essence, multiplex relationships are characterized by their depth and diversity in connections, whereas simplex relationships are defined by a singular, often context-specific interaction. Evidence also shows that developing a strong relational cadence matters too. In other words, having similar patterns that align effectively, the more synchronized the better. In person, we tend to rely on nonverbal cues to improve synchronicity. I see you're wearing headphones, a signal that you're in Do Not Disturb mode. If I care about being a good coworker, I won't come over and pull off your headphones for a non-urgent question. Conversely, I may notice that my coworker takes a lunch every day at 1 p.m. If I'm a coworker who wants to foster community through a healthy relational cadence, I'm going to ask if I can join them today. On remote, hybrid, and disparate field teams, we don't have those same in-person luxuries, so we have to build them. To foster multiplex relationships in today's workplace, a novel approach is required. It's also key to recognize that virtual work relationships in particular are slower to form due to the lack of spontaneity. Therefore, deliberate investment and genuine curiosity are crucial. With remote work, we have to be more explicit. For example, we can show that we're heads down by using signs or signals saying away or do not disturb. We can add an out-of-office message to email that reads, just working on a project for a few hours. We'll get back to email at 4 p.m. We can also just let people know with a quick post in a shared communication channel. I'm going to focus on a deadline. We'll be available in 2 hours to respond. Signing off. Equally, we should use the same tools to communicate when we're engaging in free time and self-care, like going for a walk or taking some creative thinking space. Leaders in particular need to model self-care as a healthy norm to establish within peer groups. Open communication like this also reduces unhealthy competitiveness. Shared goals are known to foster collaboration and help align individual efforts toward a common objective. Understanding and respecting co-workers' work styles and preferences are vital for synchronizing relational cadences. Managers can facilitate the optimization of work cadences by hosting a team meeting where everyone shares when they are at their best. Document the results and make sure that when a new person onboards, they can see what works and what doesn't for various individuals on the team. When is a good time to knock on each other's virtual door, and when is it better to save your question for later? Your rhythm can change. It's all about letting your team know when it does. Once a strong relational cadence is established, the focus can shift toward building relational energy, where community drives productivity. When your favorite song comes on. At work, when community thrives, people often say, "We just have this good vibe on our team," or "It's hard to describe, but we all just get along." My favorite, "We help each other stay motivated even when it's stressful. Somehow we still have fun and make each other laugh." Brad Owens and Wayne Baker developed the concept of relational energy, the indescribable feeling when your collaboration feels energizing. Relational energy refers to the positive feeling and sense of increased resourcefulness experienced as a direct result of an interaction with someone else, they wrote. Some people seem to increase our energy, positivity, and sense of resourcefulness, while others either have no impact or drain our energy. I liken this phenomenon to being at a wedding when everyone's favorite song comes on and people start gravitating to the dance floor. Suddenly, even people who hate to dance are jumping around and beckoning people out of their seats to join them. Like laughter, it's contagious and can spread in the best way. Today, relational energy at work often feels more like we're on the 4th hour of the instrumental version of Just the Way You Are. People are sitting at empty tables, nursing their sprites, waiting for their ride shares to arrive. The researchers draw from 3 well-known theories to better understand how relational energy works. Interactional ritual theory. This theory describes repetitive social interactions that reinforce shared values, beliefs, and social bonds. For example, birthday celebrations. Social contagion theory. This theory explains how emotional stimuli spread to other people, leading to increased participation in social interactions. For example, a few people start dancing, then more people join in. Our brains say, "That activity looks like it would produce feel-good chemicals. I should join in." Conservation of resources, COR theory. This theory explains FOMO, the fear of missing out. It argues that when we see energy being consumed and dispersed, we are drawn to protect and harness it to further our survival. Therefore, as we witness the social and emotional energy spreading on the dance floor, we feel compelled to participate. A business case can be made for building a relational energy strategy, especially if we want to foster a culture of community. Research has shown that relational energy is positively associated with job performance and job engagement. An individual's positive energy can have a direct positive impact on the motivation of others at work. Energized employees are more likely to self-motivate and engage in constructive work behaviors. They also cope better with workplace stressors and burnout, enhancing workplace well-being. Stress reduction inherently leads to healthier workplace relationships. Specifically, energized employees are more capable of developing deep and more intimate relationships with their colleagues or teammates. Research finds that positive personal energy also increases the likelihood of relational confidence, which promotes the active sharing of information and increased collaboration among teammates. Contrary to popular belief, research shows that relational energy can thrive in remote work settings.